Marcus didn't think. He ran. "Officer! Officer, hold on!" His work boots pounded the pavement as he sprinted across the street, catching the woman just as her knees buckled. Up close, he could see the pallor of her face, the way her lips had gone white, the jagged tear in her uniform where something had gone terribly wrong. "Got ambushed," she whispered, her eyes struggling to focus. "Suspect, knife." "Need to. Don't talk. Just breathe." Marcus eased her down onto the curb, his mind racing through the basic first aid his mama had drilled into him as a kid. The wound was in her side. Bleeding steady but not spurting. That was good, wasn't it? He yanked off his work shirt, wadding it up and pressing it firmly against the injury. "Someone call 911!" he shouted to the small crowd gathering. Officer Sarah Chen tried to push his hands away. "I can't. I need to radio. Suspect is still—" "You need to stay alive," Marcus said firmly, maintaining pressure. "That's what you need to do right now. Everything else can wait." The next 20 minutes passed in a blur. The ambulance arrived. Paramedics took over. They told Marcus he'd probably saved her. Life, the pressure he'd applied had slowed the bleeding, enough to keep her stable. One of the responding officers, a granite-faced sergeant named Holloway, shook his hand with surprising gentleness. "You did good, son," Holloway said, his eyes revealing a depth of gratitude his stern expression tried to hide. "Real good." Marcus was walking back to the shop, still shirtless and covered in blood, when he saw his boss standing in the doorway. Frank Henderson's face was the color of a ripe tomato, his arms crossed so tight his knuckles had gone white. "My office, now." The small, cluttered room reeked of cigar smoke and disappointment. Frank didn't even wait for Marcus to close the door. "What the hell was that?" Marcus blinked. "Sir, there was an injured police officer." "I don't give a damn if it was the president himself bleeding out there." Frank slammed his palm on the desk. "You left a customer's car on the lift, engine half assembled, to go play hero?" "She was dying, and we had a deadline. Mrs. Patterson needs her Civic back by 3, and you're out there, getting blood all over yourself, like some kind of ambulance chaser." Frank's face had gone from red to purple. "You know what your problem is, Webb. You think the world stops just because you decide something else is more important. Well, it doesn't. This is a business, not a charity." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. "You're saying I should have just let her bleed out?" "I'm saying it wasn't your job. There are people paid to handle emergencies. You're paid to fix cars." Frank opened a drawer and pulled out an envelope. "This is 2 weeks' pay. Consider it severance. Clean out your locker and be gone in 10 minutes. "You're firing me?" "For helping someone?" "I'm firing you for abandoning your post, violating company policy, and costing us a customer." Frank's eyes were hard as flint. "Actions have consequences. Webb, maybe this'll teach you to mind your own business." Marcus stood there. The blood on his hands, Sarah Chen's blood, now dried to a rust-brown crust. He thought about arguing, about pointing out the 3 years of loyal service, the overtime he'd pulled without complaint, the awards for customer satisfaction gathering dust in his apartment. But looking at Frank's face, he understood that none of it mattered. Some people measured the world in dollars and deadlines, and nothing else would ever compute. "Yes, sir," Marcus said quietly, taking the envelope. "I'll be out in 5. He drove home in his battered pickup truck, the severance check on the passenger seat like a monument to everything wrong in the world. His apartment was a modest 1-bedroom, in a part of town where ambition came to settle for less. As he unlocked the door, his phone buzzed. His sister, calling to ask if he could help with his nephew's birthday party next week. He'd promised to fix the kid's bike. "Hey, Keisha." "Yeah, I'll be there. Got plenty of time now." That night, Marcus lay awake wondering how he'd pay rent. Henderson's auto was the best. Shop in a 30-mile radius, Frank's reputation for quality. Work meant other shops might be hesitant to hire someone he'd let go. The severance would cover maybe 3 weeks if he was careful. After that, Marcus tried not to think about it. The next morning started ordinary enough. Coffee, job listings, the crushing weight of uncertainty. Then at precisely 9:30, he heard them. Sirens, multiple sirens growing louder. Marcus went to his window and felt his heart stop. 10 police cruisers were pulling up to his building, their lights painting the street in alternating red and blue. Neighbors emerged onto porches and balconies. Someone was filming on their phone. "Oh, God," Marcus breathed. "What now?" He was halfway to the door when the knock came, firm, official, unmistakable. When he opened it, Sergeant Holloway stood there, but he wasn't alone. Behind him were at least 15 officers. And in the center, supported by crutches but standing tall, was Officer Sarah Chen. "Marcus Webb?" Holloway's stern face suddenly cracked into something approximating a smile. "Yes, sir." "Look, if this is about yesterday, I can explain." "Explain?" Sarah stepped forward, her voice stronger than it had been on that curb. "Marcus, you saved my life. The doctors said another 5 minutes and I would have bled out. You kept pressure on that wound, kept me talking, kept me fighting. Anyone would have—" "But not anyone did," Holloway interrupted. "You did. And then we heard what happened, that your boss fired you for it." The sergeant's jaw tightened. "Officer Chen's husband owns 4 auto shops in the Tri-County area. When she told him what you did and what it cost you, well, a man stepped forward from the group, extending his hand. 'David Chen, my wife tells me you're one hell of a mechanic, Marcus. And more importantly, one hell of a human being. I've got a position open for a senior mechanic at my flagship location. Better pay, better benefits. And a boss who understands that some things matter more than deadlines. Interested?" Marcus couldn't speak. He looked at Sarah, at the assembled officers, at this stranger offering him not just a job but validation that he'd made the right choice. "We also wanted to present you with this," Sarah said, holding out a certificate. "The department's Civilian Medal of Valor. It's rare that we give these out, but you earned it." The street had gone quiet, except for the occasional camera click. Marcus took the certificate with trembling hands, reading the words through a blur of tears he wasn't ashamed to shed. "I don't know what to say," he whispered. "Say you'll take the job," David Chen smiled. "And say you'll come to dinner Sunday. Sarah wants to thank you properly. And our kids want to meet the man who brought their mom home." That evening, Marcus called his sister back. "Keisha, remember how I said I'd have plenty of time? Well, about that." He told her everything, the firing, the fear, the police cars, the miracle. When he finished, she was crying. "Mama always said kindness comes back around," Keisha said. Guess she was right. Marcus thought about that as he drifted off to sleep that night, the medal on his nightstand catching the moonlight. He'd lost a job for doing the right thing and found a better one because of it. But more than that, he'd discovered something Frank Henderson would never understand. That some things, compassion, courage, the simple act of helping someone in need, were worth more than any paycheck. In a world that often felt cold and transactional, Marcus Webb had proven that humanity still mattered. That split-second decision on a Tuesday afternoon had cost him everything, yet given him far more than he'd lost. And somewhere across town, Sarah Chen was tucking her children into bed, alive to kiss them goodnight because a stranger had decided her life was worth his job. That, Marcus realized, was all the payment anyone could ever need.